2, 1. I am with Bob. Bob, previously known as Bob De Wilde, wild with an extra E, and he's here with me today because I saw him at Fuck Up Nights. I'm not saying a bad word, that's a real thing, people. And he shared his story about fucking up, and it was very inspirational. And I'm calling Bob today, Bob the motivational speaker. Thanks for being here, Bob.
Thank you very much. My pleasure for being here. Thank you very much for inviting me, Jessica. It's I'm very much looking forward to this.
Looking forward to this. And I thought what we could look forward to is some of that energy that you had on stage. I presume you're not a professional speaker?
Nope,
And just what? Yeah. Why are you so good on stage?
Not so much. I haven't had that much experience as a professional speaker, but I did do some theater before.
That's why.
So theater, playing music as well, especially open mics. They're fantastic for getting over stage fright, because there's nothing like getting on stage after a band that really played an awesome set, and you show up with your guitar trying to play one of your own songs in front of a bunch of strangers, and it's just it can be brutal, but it teaches you to own the stage, be comfortable no matter what, and just have fun with it. And
okay.
One of the advantages also, sorry.
No, go.
One of the advantages also so far that I've had with the speaking gigs that I've had is that it's always been about topics that I'm really passionate about. And so that just makes it easy to share. I've never had to do like boring presentations or stuff like that. So that's been good.
People, pay attention. If you want to be good like Bob, have fun on stage and know what you're talking about so that you can flow with it, and whatever comes to you from the audience or whatever setbacks there might be, you feel like you can talk about it and still enjoy yourself, right?
I'll give one more tip, and that is really own the stage. Like own the stage in the sense, really like think this space now, for whatever time I have, whether it's 5 minutes or 20 minutes, this space is mine. And I'm here to have fun. I'm going to do with it what I want with it. And it just kind of, it makes this little click in your head to suddenly feel at home. Because at first also, like with open stages, I would be so nervous with people looking at me and everything, and trying to see, okay, I need to be quick and not waste any time. They're waiting. And I was like, no. This is my space now, and I'm going to do things my way. And it kind of, it automatically gives you a feeling of confidence and assertion. Of course, also posture also helps, like being like spreading your feet a little bit and having a stable footing on any stage or in front of people also is always a big help.
Own the stage. And that kind of leads nicely into own your life, own your decisions. And I would want to even say the saying, I've never said this before, own your fear. What can you do with that expression about the decisions you made in your life and how you changed things around when you knew it was just too much?
So owning your fear can be tricky. There are like several kind of steps to that. First of all, there's one of not being in denial about your fear, like recognizing that you have it, or being aware that you have it, and accepting, sort of making peace with the fact that you are afraid, so they can properly kind of deal with it. And the thing with like the stages that I've been like, topic here of that we gave for this interview, like how to do what's necessary, basically when you are afraid, when you're lacking the courage to actually act. You know that something should be done, but you're not quite sure how to muster the strength to do it. Like typically those fears, like you have, as far as in my experience, the 4 fears that I've been confronted with in these stages is, one, the fear of not being capable. So the fear that I myself might not so much in that sense, most of all, like not be able to live up to my own expectations, that my own image of myself, or what I am capable of, that I would prove myself wrong. And so it's safer very often to just stay in the daydream and just never go to action. So you never have to kind of face the verdict. Can I actually do it or not? The other one, the fear, is actually the fear of loss. Simply like, if there's a trade-off, if you're going to make a decision, something that you're going to leave behind, like, am I going to miss that part that I'm leaving behind? And then the third is the fear of disappointing other people. That's a hard one. That's very often a very, very tricky one that you have to deal with. And the fourth one, the fear of actually hurting other people. In addition to disappointing them, the fact that you might actually cause not harm necessarily, but cause them sadness or heart pain or whatever it is. And so in terms of when we're faced with fear, it can be easy sometimes to put it off or to procrastinate. And so what I mean sometimes with owning the fear is like whether you don't always have to go for the decision, but you have to make a decision and own it. And so in my past, there have been times when I was kind of postponing taking a decision because I was afraid of the consequence because of one of those four reasons. But then I wasn't owning it. So I was kind of staying in this limbo, kind of not being indecisive and making it difficult for the people around me to kind of relate to what they were supposed to do, how they were supposed to react. And so my thing about owning the fear is like really owning, like if I make a decision, if I'm not going to do it, I'm going to own that. I'm not going to see myself as a victim of the situation or everything like that. I'm just going to make peace with that. And that is what I mean with owning. It's taking responsibility, always kind of making sure that you are in charge, that you feel like what you're doing in your life, you have made that choice to do so.
With choice comes consequence. So I suppose if you are going to disappoint people, face your fears, disappointing yourself, and also making someone else unhappy with your choice, well, no wonder we don't take that fork in the road. We don't go for that. And I played a little bit with the title, right? When you don't have the balls to do what you gotta do, and it's not a selfish thing like what you gotta do. It's what your soul, what your mind, what your congruence would have you do, right? So happiness is when what you say and what you do are aligned. And if you are living a life, to people who are listening, people are living a life where they're hating what they're doing, but they don't have the balls to leave that, they're not happy anyway. Your partner's not happy. Your boss is not happy. Your mom's still happy because she loves you, even if you were a serial killer. But, you know, like, how do you get that courage? Is it fear, or is it hope, or is it just don't give a shit anymore? You got to do it because the pain is too strong. What have you noticed in your young life?
There are a couple of things that helped me make decisions over the year. But before I get to that, I just want to say one more thing. Like, interestingly, like a big resistance in changing these things more than happiness is actually identity. The way we see ourselves, because our identity is very much linked to how we see ourselves belonging in society, in our group of friends. We always have a sort of role. We have an identity. We feel like we're being seen in a certain way. And so anything that kind of breaks with that identity can be sometimes very, very scary to do.
Yes.
So
nice guy, you can answer all that way. Like, I'm the nice guy. I'm a good guy. I'm a whatever
for example,
thinking that you are. Doesn't do anything.
Or doing anything. I see myself also, for example, as a smart guy. I always had good grades when I was at school and everything like that. And so the fear of doing something or trying something that might make me be perceived as not smart, as making a dumb decision or anything like that, that would cause so much dissonance for me that I would be afraid of making any decisions, sometimes daring decisions, just out of fact that I would kind of, again, that falls into that category of disappointing people, that they would just see me as, oh yeah, I'm not actually smart. And that would scare me.
The truth that we're all not so, we're smart, we're not so smart. We're beautiful, we're not so beautiful. We're brave, but we're not like, I think we're both, but we're so afraid that people see that small percentage of us not being smart all the time. We make kind of dumb decisions, don't we?
Absolutely. But sometimes you got to make them. And so for me, the things that the first question that I ask myself is, will I regret this if I don't try it? If I don't take action? Or I look at the two opportunities, and it's a bit of a weird one, but I kind of imagine myself in the future. Okay, how will I look back at this? Like, whichever decision I make, will I regret one more than the other? And if I feel that clearly, then I already know that in my guts, that's sort of what I need to do. And that typically helps in these situations when I'm afraid of not being capable, or when I'm afraid of losing things. Usually, if I have that feeling, then I know, okay, well, if I have tried it, even if it doesn't work out as I had hoped, I will be happy to have tried it. And that's usually kind of the drive that I need. Once I have that thought, then I know, okay, now I just need to put things in place to soften the blow or to make it easier or whatever to just make that happen. That's the first one. The other one, like another important one that is important to consider, like when we're talking about this thing of identity, is to make sure to be very careful not to fall into the victim identity. And that actually happens quite easily, because the moment we are in a situation when we are afraid of the consequences or anything like that, or that we are afraid of the blame or whatever, the victim identity is a very comfortable identity to be in. It might seem strange, but what happens when you're in the victim identity, you receive extra care, you receive sympathy, you receive typically
forgiveness. I love it.
Exactly. You receive more leniency. So the moment you mess up, straight away, you very often go to victim identity. Oh, yeah, but this happened to me, or this happened to me. You cannot be angry at me because I myself am sorry.
Yeah.
And the danger with that is that it's very comfortable. It's very easy, but it kind of creates like an identity of that, and creates a worldview, a way of seeing yourself that puts you not in charge of your own life. And so it's easy to kind of stay in that sort of comfort zone. And I would say even worse than the victim identity is the martyr identity. When you suffer for a cause, martyr.
Isn't that real love? I suffer for someone I love. I'm a victim. Like it's very sick, this romantic ideal of like what we do for our partners when we're unhappy, right?
It's not. I myself have been in that situation, thinking that I was kind of suffering through kind of an unhappy state in a relationship because my partner needed it, and it had the complete opposite effect, because there is an implicit sort of like you're defining your relationship, your love for the person, as a suffering for like a greater cause, as if you're doing them a favor by being in pain. So there's something very twisted in there there's nothing actually noble about it, but we sort of convince ourselves that it is. Yeah. And so it's not fair. It's dangerous to yourself, because you run a chance of actually just reinforcing that. And once you have an identity, you end up looking for the same patterns. And you also sort of kind of putting the other person in this kind of weird position that you expect them to be thankful for your pain. And it's just weird. It's just not healthy.
They don't do it. It's so annoying. At times I've yelled at my boyfriend, don't you know how I suffered for you? How I didn't go to the restaurants, how all my money went to you? And then you don't even take the garbage out, like years of resentment, right? And it's it's ridiculous, because you never agreed that the garbage meant love, and it's like this suffering. I don't know if women do it more, but I just know so many women that suffer for love, and they're not happy. Then that person's not happy, but the nice guy. Could we get to that topic? Because so many men from Canada want to be the nice guy. Yeah. But there's a difference between nice and kind. And I don't know if you've explored that a little bit in your processes, but I thought it'd be nice to hear what you think about nice.
Well, I heard you make that distinction. I'd be interested in hearing how you see the distinction between nice and kind.
In the therapeutic world, there's the expression. So we just have to look to society. Maybe you don't have this, but nice guys. Do you know that expression?
Finish last.
Yeah. So by our cultural view, nice guys are losers. A nice guy or a nice girl, the nice girl next door, right? No one ever remembers them. They don't go down history. They're nice. You have a party, you invite them because you know they're going to say yes to doing the dishes. Not because they actually want to, but because they're people pleasers. They're just nice, whereas kindness is a genuine respect or treatment of people well, but not sacrificing your own needs for them, right? Like less doormatting.
Exactly. So sometimes in some cases, the kindest thing is not to be the nice guy. Like when you're in a bad relationship, like ending it is, and taking the responsibility of ending it is the kindest thing to do. So in that sense, so that's sort of kind of the first kind of two things that I talked about, the victim thing and the no regret thing, very much applies to these first three kind of fear categories that only involve yourself, when you're afraid of your own disappointment of others, what you might be losing. But for that fourth category, when you're afraid of hurting other people, that's a difficult one. That's really the one with which I struggle most. You're not so much, or?
No, but I just feel like it's so related to disappointing people. Like you're going to hurt them because they're disappointed in your actions. So I feel like it's like a similar one, but I don't
right.
know.
No, that's the thing. It's not quite the same. Like if you hurt people, they will be disappointed in you as well. Yeah. But there's a difference, for example, in the example that I was giving, like many times when I was at work, I would work extra hours, like sacrificing, like not doing what's right for my own health or for the health of my relationship or my social life or any of these things, because I was working extra hours to kind of do my work, because I was afraid of disappointing my boss or whoever I was working with. I was afraid of letting them down. And so what the consequence I would face there is that they would just purely reflect on me, that they would think that, or like I was saying, think that I'm not capable or that I'm not up to the level, but it wouldn't really hurt them in any way. It's a different situation, for example, if you are a family with kids and you're divorcing and the kids suddenly will not have their parents together. That's a very difficult decision to make, because you know that your kids will be affected by that and they might not necessarily understand or you know that they might suddenly feel that blame themselves for it or like that. So that's what I mean, actually hurting people, that it does cause them like an emotional pain, the decisions that we make. And there, the whole thing, it can be very difficult with just looking at regret or any of these things. So it does help to speak with other people, but at the same time, also, you need to be careful who you ask, because you want to know, like, make sure that you do what you feel is right and not what other people is right necessarily. And so, for me, there, the one thing that has helped me in those situations is just really practicing self-love. And that's not just in the moment, but just regularly, just making sure that I would give all the validation that I would need, I would give to myself on my own, that I would have like a healthy emotional relation with myself, so that I wouldn't be that dependent on the validation and approval of other people. And that at least allows me to kind of see things more clearly. Like if I don't need to act in a way to receive the validation, because I already kind of feel like that, I know that I will forgive myself, I will be at peace with what I do, I don't need the approval of others. At least it helps me to look at things more clearly. And then very often it's just looking at, okay, how is this going to be like 5 years from now or 10 years from now? Like, and just very often, if you are in a situation where you have to make a specific decision for yourself, it's also the right decision for the other people, because otherwise, if you're not going to be fulfilled or not going to be happy, they won't be either. But it's very often, I think it's more of a matter of managing to take your ego out of the thing and just try to look at it from a place of kindness, like you were saying, or a place of love. And that's why that whole self-love thing is very important. It has nothing to do with narcissism. On the contrary, it's just kind of making sure that you are at peace with yourself and not constantly craving validation for other people, so that does not bias the way you see the situation.
Spoken like a true Bob the motivational speaker, I have to say. So this wisdom that you kind of got, like when I heard your story at Fuck Up Nights like 2-3 weeks ago, your background didn't seem like a very spiritual, psychologically in-depth kind of dude. It seems like maybe you learned this after your Norway experience and finding a job that you really love doing and helping people not mess up in their lives and finding the right clients and really being aligned with what they want to do and attracting the right people. Did you have to go through your experiences in Norway with the job that wasn't right for you to learn this wisdom, or were you just ignoring your wisdom during those years?
It's difficult to put a finger on it, because very often you realize afterwards that you have gained some wisdom throughout a period of time. So I wouldn't be able exactly to say when specifically it happened, But definitely, like my whole experience in Norway was incredibly enriching in that sense. First of all, kind of with having the whole, I wouldn't say identity crisis, but the whole kind of feeling of, okay, this is not the right fit for me, the work that I'm doing, but then also seeing other people being very happy in it, and then suddenly getting this identity, suddenly believing, okay, I'm just the kind of person who's never satisfied, the kind of person who always thinks the grass is greener on the other side. And so I was starting to accept that okay, I'm just that kind of guy who's never really fulfilled, because everybody else seems to be happy with it. I must be the problem.
Gotcha.
And so, and the other thing is that it's very difficult to, like, I was so like, man, you don't have a comparison. You cannot just you cannot compare to, you don't know how you would be in another life. So you don't know, that's that thing, that fear of loss. Okay, like, am I going to throw all of this away to just kind of try something? I have no idea if I will be happier, because you don't really know who you are. It's only like in retrospect that you learn from the things. But I would say that the moment when afterwards, like then starting working with product design and suddenly doing something that I really loved, I had this moment when I suddenly realized, okay, I'm truly happy now. I felt like the dog that had been chasing the car, like for all this time, trying to just always just being focused on the chase. And suddenly I had gotten the car. I managed. I was entirely happy. And I remember thinking about that moment. Okay, let's see how long I can hold on to that feeling of happiness before my mind starts looking for worries again. And I think it didn't last like for a day or maybe 2 days. I managed to kind of stay just purely in this state of, okay, I've achieved what I'm on the path now. I'm where I want to be. And then straight away again, the mind starts looking for new things, new little problems to solve and everything, because that's what the mind does. And so I've been really fortunate in a way to have this transition of like these different lives, of having the life in Norway and working in this job that I wasn't very enthusiastic, that I didn't that I didn't feel matched with who I was, and then comparing that with the other feeling afterwards, and then other relationships and everything like that, and just that up and down really gave me the perspective that's really kind of allowed me to see myself in all these different settings, notice how my identity was changing through that, and then through that kind of see who I really was in it. And it's not finished. It's still going. Like, I don't know how many other identities I will have, how many other stories I will experience. So it's an ongoing story.
Then would you say following, it sounds like silly, but I spent my life chasing happiness, trying to understand what it was, read the religious books, went through 4 or 5 different religions, went to 60 countries, lived in 5 continents, looking for happiness. And happiness drives humans, just like fear of all those pain drives us the other way. So is it enough, or is it a good starting point to be like, what makes me happy? And then assess what's going on in your life. And like, if I didn't have this, I would be happier. Is that too simple of a way to start analyzing the changes you need in your life?
So when it comes to happiness, my favorite quote is that one of the Buddha, like, there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. Oh. And so for me, happiness is very much a practice. It's something that I try to do, like in any moment. I've also discovered of myself, I find it easier sometimes to be happy just having a simple pleasure, like a cup of coffee or watching something very simple, than being at the most amazing place with the most amazing view, like the really spectacular moments, because in those moments, there's like too much pressure to be happy almost, that I struggle to actually enjoy it. So I'm very much about the little pleasures and very much enjoying those, to just practice being happy on a regular basis. Because what I found for myself is that being in the right environment, doing the right job, being in the right relationship, and all of these things definitely help, like to be happy. You need the circumstances. If there's something truly bothering you, you will struggle to be happy. But in the end, truly being happy comes from the inside. So that last little thing, you have to be able to enjoy the amazing view of the amazing relationship. Like, how many people are actually in a fantastic relationship and still feel unhappy because they haven't practiced being happy? They haven't practiced actually enjoying the gifts that they have received from life through their job or through their relationship. And for me, that was also like finally kind of having that job that I really liked at age 34. I was suddenly, before that, when I was living in Norway, I was making Norwegian amounts of money, which was fantastic. And suddenly I was in Spain earning like a quarter, working much longer hours. I was just so happy that every time I went back to my desk and looked at my screen, I saw a 3D model and not like a whole list of unanswered emails. But I heard all my colleagues who were my age and who had been working with that for years, like for 10 years, which I always thought, oh, I should have done that. I should have started with that 10 years ago. And they were just complaining about it. They were not enjoying these same things for them. Like they had been doing it for such a long time. They took it for granted. And that gave me another appreciation that maybe that's why I say, like, I don't really regret that time in Norway working that job that I didn't really find fulfilling, because it allowed me to afterwards really truly appreciate what I had with a maturity that maybe I wouldn't have had I started working with product design when I was in my early 20s. And so that perspective of just learning to appreciate the things, I think that is really something to keep in mind, because I think a lot of people just kind of chase the happiness but don't practice it. So if you don't practice like being happy or enjoying life, you might at some point like finally having everything that you're looking for and not being prepared for it mentally.
Wow. Bob the Buddhist, who would have thought? Huh? I like this. LinkedIn user, I don't know who it is until I go over to LinkedIn, but they're listening in, quoting you, and have you practiced being happy? What a revolutionary sentence that I've never heard anyone ask before. And I love it, because in the other interviews I've been doing, my mentor, 89-year-old guy, he says happiness is literally just the choice of seeing it with the happiness and the funny and the levity, or seeing it in a negative way. And so you practice choosing the levity and the humor and the gratitude, and you practice not going to the automatic thing that you've been doing for your whole life. So it's a practice of choosing. I think we can put those two theories together.
Exactly. And so there's quite a simple exercise for that. That is, I forgot the psychological term for this, but it's taking advantage of the fact that the link between your emotion and your facial expression works both ways. And so when you're happy, you smile, but also when you smile, after a while, your brain goes, we're smiling, so we must be happy. And it makes you feel silly as a human being that you might be so simple, that the brain would be so easy to trick, but it actually works. And that was something also that I noticed when I was doing theater, that the moment like to get into character, to actually feel the emotion of the character, you take on a stance, you let the body express the emotion, and that kind of tricks the brain into feeling it. And so the same thing works with happiness. And so what I started doing at that point was just to practice smiling, but really smile even more than with the mouth, with the eyes. Just kind of put this thing smiling with the eyes. Anytime when I just felt neutral, like when I was brushing my teeth or when I was sitting on the bus, like I wouldn't do it when something would be bothering me necessarily, but just when I was in a neutral state of mind, I would ask myself, could I smile now? And I just tried it out. And I tried smiling, and very quickly it started actually turning into a real smile and actually started feeling joy. And that told me, okay, I don't actually need a reason to be happy. I can just be happy out of nothing. And then I started practicing that as sort of unconditional happiness, like happiness without any reason for it, and just try to start that more and more. And then from happiness to joy.
Okay, unconditional happiness, unreasonable happiness, because there's no reason for it. And it's funny.
That's a good one. I like the unreasonable happiness too.
It's like, you can't be happy. That's unreasonable to be happy. Your life isn't going well. Well, it's unreasonable. I choose it. It's a little bit of a...
I thought about the sentence that I kept in mind was worthless happiness, because it's understanding that you don't need to deserve happiness. Like you don't need to be worthy of happiness. You can be happy at any moment. But I very much like the unreasonable happiness too.
Oh, Well, I say that with a belly full of food, living in a beautiful place with a wonderful relationship with lots of friends. I think
It helps.
the test is really, you know, when you don't have Maslow's hierarchy of needs and you practice happiness, which I've been to Africa, and I'm pretty sure they choose to practice happiness despite not knowing where their meal comes from tomorrow, because I met those people and they smile much more and they feel happier than any of the Western people I know. So it must be a choice, and it must be funded, fueled by religion or spirituality, but they choose it, because if you don't choose it, we automatically go to the, unfortunately, we go to the negative because we're humans.
Yeah.
So,
but it's also like you're saying, like in Africa, like the culture is different. Like in Western culture, like Western Europe and the US, you can just do the test. Like anytime I would tell people, like every time people would ask me, "How are you doing?" And I would tell them, so I'm feeling tired, like lots of work, these kind of things. Nobody would ask me follow-up questions. That's normal. If I tell them, "How are you doing?" "I'm great." They would, "Why?" Then they went, "Okay, that's not normal. Like, why are you happy? What's going on?" Like then you have to explain. And that tells you something about our society. Like, okay, so when you know the standard is to be miserable, mediocre at best, that is what is expected, we all want to belong. We all want to think, okay, that's the way I should be. And so we don't learn, we don't practice actually being happy. And it's something that I think children should learn from a young age, like to practice them, like, okay, they're usually happy themselves as well, but kind of teaching them to just be happy out of nothing, like to feel joy out of nothing, and also feel love for themselves, like self-love out of like, without needing like a validation for it or something like that. It's one of the most important things that I think we are lacking in our Western education.
Beautiful. Thank you. We went over time. Thank you for the wisdom. I figured you'd have some good gems of life experience, or I don't know, life is a user experience. No, if you figure out how your user experience is going to be, and on the professional note of finding clients that
For
align.
design thinkers, everything is design thinking. So everything is user experience, and yeah, absolutely.
So this is the spirituality of user thinkers around the world, maybe.
Yeah. So. I think so. Definitely helps.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for this. It's nice to hear a guy on stage who feels free to talk about choosing happiness instead of just fitting in and choosing what everyone else is doing. We have enough of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. It was a lot of fun talking here.
Great.
All right.
Okay. See you around. Bye.
Later. Bye.
Thank you.